Okay, so the way that the Aztecs would finish this off is they pour it from real high and that get a little more froth and make sure everything's emulsified. So I'm gonna give it a shot. Ooh. Oh God. Some of it's on the floor. Hey there, I'm Sohla El-Waylly and this is Ancient Recipes with Sohla. In each episode, we're gonna take a dish you may recognize and attempt to recreate one of the oldest versions of it to ever exist. It's a little history, it's a little cooking, and it's a whole lot of me. What's not to love? In this episode, we're going to try to recreate Aztec Tlahcos, which would eventually evolve into modern-day tacos. And because I can't pass up an opportunity to use chocolate, we're going to also try out an ancient Aztec recipe for hot chocolate, Xocolatl. The Aztec Tlahco was very different from the version you may be familiar with from your go-to taqueria. No lime, no cilantro, no cheese. Yep, some of those staples of modern tacos weren't in the original dish at all. Those things were brought to Central America by the colonizers and would then be integrated into the dish. So I'm gonna start by working on the filling. We're gonna do a little veg prep. I've got a couple tomatoes, and we're gonna core it. So these tomatoes, onion, peppers, it's all gonna get charred on the Komal. It's a flat surface that you use to char things and cook tortillas. So we're gonna char these veggies on there. They're gonna get nice and blackened and soft. But yeah, we're just gonna core our tomatoes just to get rid of that tough stem. And we're gonna keep it intact so it doesn't like burst on there and get all the, we don't wanna lose those juices, you know? Now, our peppers. I'm just going to remove the top and try and pull out some of those seeds. Now, everyone always says that taking out the seeds makes it less hot, but that's totally not true. The heat's actually in the ribs, but taking out the seeds is a good idea. It'll lessen the heat slightly, but more importantly, the seeds can be kind of tough and bitter if you leave them in there. So I'm just getting in there with my knife. We want to keep it intact though, because we don't want it to like fall apart on the Komal. We're just gonna char them on there. And with the serranos, I'm just gonna remove the stems. I don't know if I'm gonna use all of these. It's good whenever you're using chilies to give them a whiff. If you're brave, get in there and bite them. See if they smell spicy. These don't smell spicy at all. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and use 4. If you got some spicy ones, maybe use 1 or 2. But I think we're gonna be okay here with all 4. And then the onion, I'm going to just peel off the skin. And I'm gonna make big slices that are gonna be easy to turn on the Komal. So I just took a little slice off the root because I wanna hold it together. And then I find it easier to slice once we peel it. Now the onion is gonna get really charred on there and that makes it nice and sweet. Onions, tomatoes, you can like burn to death. So the onion, I'm gonna do some big fat wedges. So we have some more surface area to get it nice and charred, but it's gonna stick together, making it easier to turn on the Komal. I'm gonna go back and trim off some more of this root. We just need enough root to hold it together. I think you could totally do this with like green onions, shallots, anything in the allium family can totally take the char. Okay, so I'm gonna set this aside so we can take it over to the stove to cook on the Komal. And next we're gonna work on our masa. All right, chilies, poblanos. I can feel the onion. I'm getting onion eyes already. Next, I'm going to mix up my masa for my tortillas. So masa is made by nixtamalizing corn, which is done by simmering the corn in calcium hydroxide, and then you let it soak for a while, and then you rinse it in cool water, and then you grind it, and you end up with this paste, which is masa. That's what you use to make tortillas, tamales, whatever the hell you want. Now, masa harina is a really nice, like convenient modern day product that is pretty much that masa that's been fully processed, which is then just dried so that you can add water and make masa whenever you want without having to like nixtamalize your own corn, right? And we're gonna add some salt. Let's start out by forking in our salt. So you can turn your hand into whatever tool you need. Right now my hand's a whisk, huh? So I'm gonna whisk in the salt and then I'm gonna keep this like whisk form for adding the water. We're gonna eyeball this. So getting the texture on your masa right takes a little bit of practice. I'm using kind of like tepid water. You don't wanna use cold water. It kind of seizes a bit and you end up needing more in the beginning, and then you end up with like a really sticky dough. But you also don't want to use hot water. We're gonna slowly incorporate it. We want to have a nice soft dough that it's gonna kind of stick to your hands, but not totally. And it's not so dry that it cracks when you try and press it. It takes a little bit of practice to nail it. Now, this isn't like a glutinous bread dough. We're not trying to develop any starch. But the kneading process here is just about making sure everything gets evenly hydrated. And I feel like we're getting pretty close. The way to check and see if your masa is good, I like to roll a little ball. It should easily come into a ball without being too sticky and not leaving too many cracks. So you see, I've got this like cracked situation when I try and roll it. So I'm gonna add a little bit more. I'm gonna go for maybe a tablespoon of water. And then we'll mix it up and try it again. So I guess they found that the Aztecs didn't actually use any fat in their cooking. So this is gonna be a very lean taco. Okay, I have a nice ball. When I squish, doesn't crack too much, doesn't stick. I think our dough is good to go. So I'm gonna let this rest covered, and in the meantime, we're gonna make our taco filling. I prepped my veggies, and now we're going to char them on the comal. This is a ceramic comal, which is exciting because I've never used one like this before. The ones I've used have been steel or cast iron. I'm just gonna toast it totally dry. We wanna develop some nice char. Lots of blackening. Don't be scared. We're not going for brown. We're going for black. It's going to add lots of smoky flavor. So the best way to do that is to just kind of let it sit still, let it do its thing. So the first account of the taquiza, or the taco party, was written about in the book The True History of the Conquest of New Spain, written by Bernal Diaz in 1568. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with the char I got on my veggies. My peppers, onions, they're looking good to me. The tomatoes they just stuck and burnt. Like the juices came out of them and burned. I'm not familiar with this kind of comal. So I think maybe there's a better way to do it that I don't know. I'm sure the Aztecs have their secrets, but we're gonna move on. I think it's gonna be okay. This looks really good, and I think we're gonna have lots of good flavor. Now, they would have probably smashed this up to make the salsa for the turkey. I'm gonna go ahead and chop because, I'm just gonna do it my way. Why the hell not, right? So I'm gonna do a very rough chop here. We're not getting too precise. Just breaking it down, and then I'm gonna smash it a little more in the skillet. The tomatoes, I'm just gonna scrape right into the skillet and smash in the skillet. But I want my peppers and onions to get a little head start. So a little choppy chop. Now the onions, I know they look quite blackened, but onions are one of those vegetables where they can really take it. Everything in the onion family. Scallions, shallots. I can't think of any other onion. Anything in the allium family, though. You can char it, it turns into something else. Onions are a really cool vegetable because they can be spicy or sweet or bitter or aromatic, like just really depending on how you treat them. So I'm happy with that chop situation. Okay, so now I've got these tomatoes. They did get kind of stuck, so I'm going to just scrape them into this cast iron skillet, which is where I'm going to prepare the rest of my taco filling. But it's nice and soft. I think we've got some good flavor. Now let's put the rest of these guys in here. And I'm going to just like smash it. The thing that I want to do right now is put a whole bunch of like olive oil or butter. They didn't have that. But the food I've come to know as like, Latin American is really different from what it used to be. So I'm just going to give it a smash. Let's get this over some heat. Oh, we got some heat going. While this kind of cooks down a little bit, I'm going to season it with a big pinch of salt and some epazote. Epazote is an herb that's like, it smells a little bit like oregano. You can find it everywhere. Like it honestly, in Manhattan, it grows. You know how there's like a random tree on the sidewalk in Manhattan and then a little patch of land where it says, please clean up after your dogs? A lot of times there's epazote growing there, but it's very grassy and has a little floral note, a lot like oregano. If you can't find epazote, oregano is a good substitute, but most Latin grocery stores have it. It's worth checking out. It gives it like a really nice authentic aroma. I think I'm going to do a little more, and I'm going to add my turkey meat now. So the reason we're using turkey is that's what they had around. They didn't have pigs, they didn't have chickens, they didn't have cows, but they had turkey. Even though none of the things that I think about in a modern day taco is not here, like there's no cumin, there's no lime, there's no cilantro, but it still smells a lot like a taco, like a salsa. We're getting acidity from the tomatoes, and I think the char is doing a lot. So this is looking nicely cooked. I think we're pretty much there. It's still a little saucy. I don't want to cook out all of the moisture from the veggies because we want it to have like a nice moist, saucy vibe. The turkey looks cooked through. I feel like our turkey filling is ready to go. I'm gonna let this hang out on a back burner and stay warm while we make our tortillas. I've got my masa right here that I prepared earlier, and it's been resting. And you can see it's moist, but it's not sticky. And after resting, it's like a little bit easier to handle. It's a little more pliable. And I'm gonna keep it covered while I work because it can dry out pretty quickly. So the problem with these cast iron presses is the masa really wants to stick to it. So I'm gonna use a couple pieces of parchment. They definitely wouldn't have parchment paper, but we've got it, we're gonna use it. So I'm gonna start by making little balls. So I think it takes a couple tries to really nail the size of the dough ball to get a nice big tortilla, but you wanna go for like a ping pong ball size. So take your time, make a nice smooth ball, because a smooth ball means the edges of your tortilla are gonna be nice and smooth. If it gets cracked now, it'll be cracked later. But if it does crack a little bit, don't worry about it. All right, when we go here, I like to put it not exactly in the center, but just slightly off center towards the hinge, because when we press it down, it's gonna push the masa forward. So we'll end up centered afterwards. And now these are super fun. Now we do this, now we press. If you don't have a tortilla press, I've totally done this with like the bottom of a really heavy cast iron pan. Oh, but look at how beautiful that is. Hey, that was a pretty good first try, eh? Okay, so our Komal is preheated over like medium-high heat. And once we get it on there, it's gonna happen pretty quickly. You wanna use the parchment to help you flip it on. Just like that, flip it off. So I've been told that for the best tortillas, you wanna do a couple of flips. We're gonna flip, flip, flip like every 10 seconds, and then we get a good puff. And look, I didn't get a flipping tool. Let's see if we can flip this guy. Oh. All right. It's really fun to watch people making tortillas. You just keep going one at a time. You really gotta use a good amount of body pressure. Get in there, make it thin. When you're dealing with anything that needs a flip, you know it's ready to flip when it tells you that it's ready to flip. It'll like release itself from the pan when it's ready. So sometimes you gotta just let the tortilla talk to you. Oh, and we have release. That's exactly what you wanna see. There's a little charring, there's a little blistering. We got a little poof. And I'm gonna give it another flip. And then another final flip. How many flips is that? 1. This is 2. This is 3? 4 flips? I feel like that's the right amount of flips. As soon as your tortillas come off the comal, you wanna wrap it in a towel so it stays nice and warm. But ideally, you wanna have your friends and family lined up. We're having a taquiza. Everyone's lined up. You make a tortilla, you hand it to someone, and it goes directly into their face. That is the ideal consumption method for a tortilla. Okay, it took a few tries, but we got there. It's just like making pancakes. You gotta play with your burner a little bit to figure out exactly how high to set it. Now that the taco ingredients have been prepped, we're gonna go into the Xocolatl, which, to give you an idea of what it's gonna taste like, translates to bitter water. They drank a lot of this hot chocolate. They thought it had like mind-opening powers, health benefits, all that stuff. So we're gonna give it a shot. First thing I'm gonna do is bring some water to a boil along with 1 sliced serrano chili. See, it's not what you expected. Already twists and turns right at the beginning. So I've got 1 sliced chili, and we're gonna let this simmer for a little bit to try and pull out some of that heat. We want to flavor this water with that spicy chili flavor. While that does its thing, I'm gonna prepare a vanilla bean. Vanilla bean actually comes from an orchid, and it's one of my favorite ingredients. This is a really nice, moist, juicy one. I haven't seen people do this, but my thing is I like to massage it a little to loosen up those seeds inside the pod before getting in there This is especially helpful if you have kind of a dried out bean, but this is a really nice, fresh, juicy History Channel, really sprung for the good stuff. We're gonna use a paring knife to split it right down the middle, and I'm only gonna use half of this vanilla bean in here, and I'm gonna just use the seeds. But you can use all of the vanilla bean, like save the pods. I like to shove it into sugar, maple syrup, honey. Honey vanilla is really, really tasty. Okay, I've got this spicy chili water. I'm gonna strain it to remove the chilies and the seeds, so we just have this spicy liquid, and this is gonna be the base of our hot chocolate. I'm gonna pour this liquid back into the pot. Ooh, it got a light little tint of green already too, very quickly. Much like, oh, I got chili in my throat. All right, now I'm gonna add the seeds from this vanilla bean and a bit more water. And we're gonna let it come to a simmer and add our cocoa powder. So, okay. So we're gonna be using unsweetened cocoa powder for this beverage, but they would have used something more like a cocoa mass, like just cacao beans that have been fermented and then mashed into a paste. That's not something that's easy to find these days, but cocoa powder is going to give us a lot of the same flavor. So I'm just letting this come up to a boil, and then I'm going to add the cocoa. Montezuma was said to have consumed 100 of these a day out of a gold goblet. I don't know how you, I don't know if that's true. I don't know how you got that much time for hot chocolate. Was he doing nothing else? Perhaps. So what they would traditionally whisk up their hot chocolate with is a wooden whisk called a molinillo. We didn't have one of those. Okay, so originally this was like this long piece that came out to here with the second handle. And I think it's like a ravioli cutter, but you know, improvising, making it work. It kind of looks a lot like a molinillo, so I'm hoping it's gonna do the same thing. So now I'm gonna add the cocoa, and then I've not used a molinillo before, but I'm gonna try. I feel like it might work. So this isn't the original. We're making it work, but I feel like it's doing something. So the liquid's sloshing around. The cocoa seems to be getting mixed up. We're just gonna cook this until everything is like nice and smooth, emulsified. This looks nothing like the hot chocolate that I know. The hot chocolate I know comes with freeze-dried marshmallows. This is splish-splashing around. I'm not getting much froth. Okay. So this is definitely not something the Aztecs would have used. Oh my God, it's more powerful than I expected. Oh, but we are getting froth. Everything is mixed up. There's no clumps of cocoa. This is gonna be spicy because I can like feel the chili heat. Oh, look at it go. I bet if the Aztecs had one of these, they'd be into it. We're getting some froth, we're getting emulsified, and I think that we have achieved Xocolatl. This is ready to go. Where's my goblet? Is there a gold goblet? Okay, so I've got everything I need for my little taco party. Our hot chocolate's ready to go, so I'm gonna plate a couple up. Here are our tortillas. You can see it's really nice and supple and tender. It's exactly what you want. I'm gonna load it up with some of this turkey filling. So a lot of our veggies have really nicely like melted down, so we have a little saucy action happening. Here we go. I'm a 2 taco girl. I'm gonna do 2. Look at that. Okay, this isn't a good one. Don't look at that. Let's look at this. Look at that. It's a beautiful tortilla. And you know, the process for making a tortilla actually hasn't changed a whole lot in thousands of years, which is pretty cool. All right, tacos. So the way that the Aztecs would finish this off is they pour it from real high and that get a little more froth and make sure everything's emulsified. So I'm gonna give it a shot. Okay, let's see. Ooh. Oh God. Some of it's on the floor. That's cool. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna do it again. They also do this with chai in India to like froth it up and cool it down. It's a skill. It's harder than it looks. Okay. I'm not gonna spill this time. I just gotta like go with it. Oh, a little spill. But you know, there's a little froth. It's cooled down a little. I'm gonna have a bite of my taco. I'm a slow chewer. Sorry. Takes me a minute. This is a lot better than I was expecting, to be honest. Because it's turkey, there's no fat, there's no cheese, there's no avocado. I really thought this was going to be flat, but there's a lot of flavor from those charred veggies. We're getting that acid from the tomato. The tortilla is really nice and soft and tender, and you can see the turkey's not dry at all. It's super juicy from all those vegetables. I'm really surprised. I'm genuinely really surprised by how good this tastes. The epazote is adding a really nice, like, herby, bright note, which I wasn't expecting. A little bit of like thyme, oregano kind of vibe. That's really nice. And there's a good bit of heat. The serranos didn't smell too spicy, but I like the spice level we ended up with. So that's surprisingly delicious. I'm not missing the lime or cilantro at all. There's a lot going on. The char is what's doing it. The char is bringing a lot of depth, a little bit of smokiness, a little bit of sweetness. It's what's bringing so much flavor to this really, really simple dish. All right, so let's try the hot chocolate. Okay, so this smells like hot chocolate, but it also smells like serrano peppers, which is interesting. Let's get in there. It's very hot. Sorry, guys. Hold on. Oh, gosh. It's spicier than I thought. Oh boy. Hold on. This tastes nothing like hot chocolate. It's actually pretty spicy. It really hits you in the back of the throat. I smell chocolate, but I don't taste it. I smell chocolate and vanilla, but I taste chili. It's a little weird. I feel like this is like probably a good cold remedy because my throat is cleared. Like you feel the heat coming down, you feel the heat through your nose, but I don't think I would have this again. It's a lot. It's really intense. It's just bitter and heat, but it's a little confusing because you smell chocolate. Like it smells like brownie batter. I'm really getting the vanilla and the cocoa, but then it tastes like hot sauce, like a really bad hot sauce. I don't know. I think it's growing on me a little bit. I have a perpetual stuffy nose. That's cleared up. It tastes like it's good for me. It doesn't taste like the hot chocolate I know. I don't want to put marshmallows in this. What this is missing is like a quarter cup of sugar. That's what it'll need to like taste like hot chocolate to me. But it's definitely interesting. This is supposed to have mind-opening qualities. I don't know if my mind's opening, but my sinuses definitely are. Maybe Montezuma just like needed Claritin. Maybe he had allergies and that's why he had to drink so much of this. I take it back. I think that I don't hate it. It takes a minute. It's one of those things you gotta kind of sit with it. It's just a little bit of a shock to the senses, for the modern chocolate consumer. We're gonna do this right. Goes together pretty well. That actually works together because this is like a savory beverage. It's spicy, kind of cuts through. This tastes kind of rich and fatty, even though we didn't add any fat to it, just from the turkey meat and the salsa we cooked down. So this kind of cuts all of that, and it cuts the heaviness of the tortilla. So it goes together really well. I really like these tacos. They definitely surprised me. The drink, I don't know. I'm 50-50 on this one. I need to think about it a little bit. But if you really like this episode, be sure to like and subscribe and hit us up in the comments if there's any vintage or ancient recipes you want to see me try out. I really want to try something, I think, from the Paleolithic era. I don't know. We'll see. All right. I'll see you next time.